Let's now take a look at number 20 in the time value of money chapter. What we're looking at here is two different sets of contracts, one for a famous quarterback and one for a famous receiver, and the question is one of value, where we're trying to determine which one of them is better paid. The key to unlocking this problem is going to be recognizing that the higher the present value outflow, the greater the value. What does that mean? It means if I, as a rational investor, am willing to pay $1 for something, versus I, as an irrational investor, am willing to pay $10 for something, that $10 clearly indicates that whatever it is that I'm thinking about buying is worth more. So let's see which one of these represents greater worth. So the first thing that we have is a quarterback. Let's go ahead and plot out that quarterback's payments. The quarterback's payments are going to look something like this. We're going to have over a 5-year period a series of constant cash flows of $3 million. I indicate that line just to show that they're the same for each of those 5 years. And, as I indicated previously, the question of value is really one of present value. Which one am I willing to pay more for? Now, we've got the receiver down below. The receiver's contract is a little bit different in terms of the receiver also gets paid over that same 5 years. Bonus of $4 million right now. So if we think about that in terms of value, how much would you be willing to pay for $4 million right now? Would you pay $1 for it? Well, clearly. Would you pay $10 if I gave you $4 million right now? Yes. What's the maximum you would pay? You'd be willing to pay up to $4 million. So that negative $4 million now is an indicator of value. So now let's go ahead and look at these two things on a total cash flow basis by looking at the quarterback and looking at the receiver. And let's look at our 5 variables of present value, future value, payment, the rate, and the number of periods. For both, it's indicated for us in the problem that the rate is 10%. Both of them are paid over a 5-year period. I always like to think about this in terms of, do our periods match? So we've got a rate that's annual. We have a number of periods that's annual. And the payments that they're going to receive are also annual. For that quarterback, it's $3 million each year. And for that wide receiver, it's $2 million each year. But we now also recognize that there is no standalone future value at the end for either contract. It's not like it's a balloon payment or an incentive payment that comes at the end of the contract. So what we'd like to do is figure out the present value of each. So at the rate of 10% over a 5-year period with payments of $3 million annually and no present value, that quarterback's contract is worth around $11.3 million. The wide receiver, as you might expect, because they get paid $1 million less per year, their contract is actually worth less as it stands right now because they get only $2 million a year for 5 years, so theirs is worth more like $7.581. Now notice that those are both negatives, which again is that indicator of present value out. I would be willing to give you up to $11,372,000. I would be willing to give you up to $11,372,000 if you gave me $3 million a year for 5 years, assuming a rate of 10%. I would be willing to give you $7.581 million if you were to give me $2 million a year for 5 years at a rate of 10%. There is one extra thing we need to add on here, though, which before we can get to this total is the idea that we also then have this signing bonus. So the signing bonus for the quarterback is nothing, whereas the receiver gets $4 million. So what will the total be for each of them? Well, what I'm going to do here is to switch this out so we can present it a little more logically than a negative. So I'm going to say it's equal to then the opposite of this. That's just switching the sign, so it's not negative 11 million but positive, and then add on the signing bonus. So there's our answer for the quarterback. It's the same as the present value above, 11.372 million. Whereas the receiver, let's go ahead and switch the sign on the present value of the contract. Let's add in the signing bonus, which since it comes now is also a present value, and we can now see that the receiver is actually better paid, meaning that you would be willing to give up to $11,581,573.54 if, at a rate of 10% over 5 years, someone gave you $4 million right now and then gave you $2 million a year each year for 5 years.